All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. I think those who are left are trying to find a seat. We have some over there. All right. We'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC, and I'm so excited to welcome you back to day 2 of our fall market, Discover ADAC. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get started with this awesome panel, I want to just remind everyone of a few housekeeping items. I want to remind you to pick up a copy of this event guide. It has lots of information in here that you're going to need for the next 2 days of market. For any designers in the room that want to attend our sister properties market, Fall Design Week, today is the last day. So if you would like to go down to America's Mart in a super convenient way, we are running a shuttle back and forth between our 2 properties. Again, that is for designers only. If you need information about the times that those shuttles leave and come back, it's all in this trusty event guide, or Janisha at the front desk can help you with that as well. Backed by popular demand this year, we have our Behind the Windows program, which is 3 of our designers here in the building that have offices in our building have created 3 beautiful vignettes. You can find those in Suite 238 and Suite 503, so go check those out. Remember to have some fun with us on social media this week. We love seeing all the photos and all the reels that you're doing and the Instagram stories. So just take pictures, have some fun. Our hashtag this week is Discover ADAC. Our handle is at ADAC Atlanta. But again, this event guide right here has all of the handles for our media partners, our showrooms, and all of our speakers as well. So just be sure to post those stories and stuff. I want to thank our media partner today, which is MILIEU. Our showroom partner today is Calton and Tout. Remember that we will go to Calton and Tout after this presentation for a reception. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Leslie Newsom Rascoe, who's MILIEU's design director.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? How does it sound okay? Can you see? I hate it when you can't see. Ooh, I better not go that way. Can you hear me now? Is that good? Okay. On behalf of MILIEU Magazine, I'd like to, and if it sounds weird, please let me know. Okay. On behalf of MILIEU Magazine, I'd like to welcome you all to Discover ADAC. Thank you, ADAC, for producing this program of excellence and providing an unparalleled resource to those of us who love design. Please join us for a reception immediately following the panel in the Calton and Tout showroom, Suite 225, to see their new collection and artful brands that bring so much beauty to the world. I can't wait to introduce these design superstars and delve into their magical collaboration. But before I do, I'd like to take a moment to highlight a recurring theme that runs throughout our issue. And that's the art of the slipcover. It's so cute. Fringes, tassels, piping, and scallops, pattern, pleats, or skirting. A well-fitting slipcover is an elegant way to update furniture and indeed daily life. While change can be unsettling, making a change in our home lifts the spirits. We see in our fall issue houses designed and owned by the designers themselves who have embraced the spirit of change. and thereby revealing their innate creativity. All of those are slipcovers. And our friends at Calton and Tout have gotten into the slipcover act with these gorgeous Colfax and Fowler slipcovers made especially for us today. My throne is covered in floss with a Mirador braid, and my consort's chairs are covered in Genista. And you can see this after the presentation if you go to their showroom. And so without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce acclaimed interior designer Jackye Lanham and award-winning architect Stan Dixon. Known for timeless, elegant interiors, Jackye's relaxed approach to formal settings, combined with her clean interpretation of classic style, infuses her spaces with gracefulness. Thanks to her thoughtful compositions, layered details, and painterly approach to color, Jackye's rooms issue a warm invitation to sit down and stay a while. The importance Jackye places on home is due in part to her upbringing in a military family that frequently moved from Greece to Japan and throughout the United States. Relocating every few years gave Jackye keen observational skills that informed every aspect of her work. After obtaining an interior design degree from University of Alabama, she worked for renowned antique dealer Tom Hayes, which took her to the Philippines, Hong Kong, Spain, England, and France. Her travels, both personally and professionally, have instilled a deep appreciation for a sense of place. A firm grasp of each location's unique qualities allows Jackye to execute designs inspired by her surroundings. Like an experienced hostess, her rooms invite you in with their quiet but impactful palette, patina, and pattern. Jackye has completed projects throughout the country, from cities to beaches, mountains to lakes. Her design of private clubs in the States and abroad, such as Doonbeg in Ireland, is legendary. When not designing, you'll find Jackye on the hunt for treasures to add to her vast collections, or driving with the top down with her husband and beloved Cavaliers. Tell me their names.
Well, right now we have one. We have a brand new baby. His name is Hutty, Hutty, named after an artist in Charleston.
Oh, wonderful. And now, to Stan the man, D. Stanley Dixon, and I have to ask, what does the D stand for? Are you allowed to say? Is that like a tender subject?
No.
Okay. Okay, there you go. I've been wondering this whole time, and I waited to now to ask, so I would be surprised. That's great. Okay. Raised in Sumner County, Tennessee, a region along the Cumberland River, notable for its pastoral landscapes and historic structures, Stan was inspired from a young age to study architecture. The simplicity of materials and authentic beauty of the houses continue to inform his design philosophy today. After receiving his Bachelor of Architecture degree from University of Tennessee, Stan attended Britain's renowned Addington Trust School for the study of historic homes. After completing his education, Stan moved to Atlanta, where he gained experience in residential and commercial firms, leading him back to his underlying love of houses. Tutelage in residential design with the esteemed Norman Davenport Askins was the next phase of Stan's career until he started his own firm in 2006. Stan's edited approach to classical elements creates an understated aesthetic that is historically based while embracing modern design. His goal to interpret individual needs through work that engages style, scale, proportion gives every building a sense of permanence and delight. And this is one that was in MILIEU that we shot, which was fabulous. It's in Casters, and it's a kind of a modern barn, I would say. That was so fun to shoot that. Except for, I think that vase in the background might have scratched that table.
Don't tell now.
I did tell. I like right away. I said, and it was like a $60,000 table.
Yikes.
But it was okay. We fixed it. With projects in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Indiana, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York, and I'm sure it's other states by now, there are no limits to the breadth of Stan's work nor professional accolades, which we will learn about shortly. And if you will allow me, okay, this is probably not going to work, but I'm going to try. We shall see. Okay, allow me. Oh, wait.
I don't know.
You're gonna. You get the idea. A little ditty about Jackye and Stan, two American classicists doing the best work in the land. Jackye's an interior design star, while Stan's architecture has taken him far. Did it work? Yes! Woo! Yes! I mean, I was like, is the phone gonna lock up? No. Anyway, I worked on that. I was thinking about it, because the whole time I've been doing this, I'm like, Jackye and Stan. The real life story of Jackye and Stan is every bit as good as Jack and Diane. Both were deeply influenced by the South. Let me get Jackye and Stan. Sorry, I was supposed to do that. That's the Jackye and Stan Roadshow. There you go. That's the casual. Okay, now here we go. Both were deeply influenced by the South, its land, people, and architecture. They both attended Southern universities, majoring in what would one day be their profession. Jackye and Stan are self-proclaimed Anglophiles, especially inspired by fellow Southerner who took England by storm, Nancy Lancaster. Both have said this. Wildly talented and wealthy, interior and garden designer Nancy Lancaster is considered the creator of English country style. We see here several estates where Nancy lived and decorated, and this is Ditchley, and the garden at Halsey Court, Halsey Court in Oxfordshire. And here's Nancy at Halsey Court, taken by Cecil Beaton. And I love this picture because of the dog in the background. You see the dog? Isn't that fabulous? Look at that. It's just amazing. And as you know, Nancy bought the beloved design firm Colfax and Fowler, which we're on right here, working with John Fowler, designing some of the most iconic rooms of the 20th century, including the famous Yellow Room at Avery Row, which I think was across from the Colfax showroom. And here's Kelmarsh Hall, which is said to be Nancy's favorite home. And lo and behold, we have Stan sketching in the garden of Kelmarsh Hall during a study at Addington Trust. There you go. I'm a sleuth. That's on your website.
Yeah.
I'm not that sleuthy.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do want to be a private eye. Another Southerner with a profound impact on Jackye and Stan is classical architect Philip Trammell Schuetze. Born in Columbus, Georgia, Schuetze won the Prix de Rome in 1915 and returned to Atlanta designing many iconic structures. Awarded by the Institute of Classical Architecture, Jackye and Stan have won the coveted Jackye Award for excellence, not once, but multiple times. In fact, Stan just won again a few nights ago. And here's Jackye and her husband, who's here today, after winning the Jackye Lifetime Achievement Award with another important influence, architect Norman Askins. And they both referenced him, which is, so interesting. Well, we can see why. Back in 2005, baby Jackye and Stan worked together on a coastal living show house in Kiawah Island with Askins as lead architect. So here it is. And it's timeless, really.
It's like, where did you get these pictures?
Yeah, that was a deep dive. That was a deep dive. Who would have imagined a little over 10 years later, Jackye and Stan would be reunited in Kiawah for their own design of the River Course Clubhouse and also win a Jackye Award for it. So here's the Kiawah. Which brings us full circle back to Kiawah, where Jackye and Stan took on something truly special, the design of Jackye and her husband's own home. Now let's finally, it's gonna be their show from now on. I'm just gonna kind of nudge. We're gonna hear from Jackye and Stan.
So I guess I'll go first.
Yes, please tell us about the inspiration for your home.
Well, as you said, Stan and I have worked several times on Kiawah. We're both very familiar with the Low Country. And my husband and I had a single house in Charleston. So I really was embedded in that area. And because I worked on Kiawah in 2016, I've got to get the dates right, we decided as an investment to buy a lot. And unbehold, we closed on December of 2016. And unbeknown to Bill, I hired Stan Dixon in 2017 at the very beginning. And Bill said, I thought it was an investment. I didn't know we were going to be doing this. So because of the historic surrounding, what I wanted was, because this is the Van Dross original plantation home that owned half of the island, probably in the 1700s. I wanted a house that felt like maybe it was a ruin that was part of the plantation, some outbuilding somewhere. And I didn't want it to feel like a new home or a new raised cottage or a shingle style. And so I had this vision of something, but I had no idea how to get there. And so therefore I hired this man. And since we had worked together for so long and together, I knew that, I would throw an idea out and Stan would jump right on. So what we came up was...
It was a great challenge and really an interesting project. And I think we started doing research of different types of buildings that would have been on a property like this. And we came up with ideas of a chapel or a schoolhouse or maybe some type of tenant house or a smaller structure. And we ended up on the idea of a stable. And it just seemed to really fit both the program, the lot, and so from there we started doing research on stables that would be in the Low Country, both in Charleston and on different barrier islands in the region. And that's where the impetus for the form of the house and the look of the house would come from. And we started seeing that there were so many stables that were repetitive. There were not just one building, but multiple buildings that were usually built parallel to each other. So we had this idea that there would be these two tabby ruin stable blocks, and we particularly looked towards the Aikenret house in Charleston, which is these beautiful Gothic arches and these fantastic shutters.
Which we're going to see. Your version.
So that along with some of the Low Country and the tabby, we kind of mixed these forms of architecture to come up with these two buildings that had been there as stables, but then the program, we created a connector that connected these two buildings, which was built in our story, a later date, and that became the entry hall into the house, which these decisions and the decisions that we made architecturally in both and finishes for the house really kept going back to this story. What would the materials have been outside? What would have the materials been inside? For example, the floors in the stables were stone cobbles like they would have historically been. And we actually created a pattern and had the stables made so that you could see sort of the runs of the carriages that may have gone through those stables.
And we purposely did not grout.
Right.
We didn't use any grout. So we used, so we used a tight joint because the horses would have been, it would have been swabbed out. They would have cleaned it, and they, so that everything would just run out. So absolutely no, and it works perfectly.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, and I included this tabby. What is tabby, and why did you use it in the structure?
Tabby was originally used in Florida, at that time a Spanish settlement, and so the Spaniards brought it over. And tabby is when you use lime and cement, and you use shells as the aggregate in the shells, and that migrated north to both the coastal Georgia and coastal South Carolina. So, and it's also used a lot in kind of the Louisiana coastal area as well. But originally they would use oyster shells, larger scale oysters, and it's been through history it has changed and evolved, and with modern day construction we used a different version of that, and we had a lot of fun putting together, selecting the shells, selecting the aggregate behind it, the color of the shells, how many shells were on the structure.
Where can you do that? I mean, like, who is a tabby? Like, would it be South Carolina who are the tabby experts?
They're just usually people that would apply stucco in those regions would know how to apply the tabby as well. So we actually, Jackye and I got to throw, you call it throwing. So it's a cement block house, and then it's stuccoed on the outside. And when the stucco is wet, you actually take a bucket of shells and throw it against the house. And so cool. You can throw more or less shells, and we actually did it when the house was getting started, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we kept saying more.
And then they, after you get the shells on there, they take a wood pallet and just press it into the stucco. And it dries and it stays, and it's very durable.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting because you'll see in the photographs, because we were very authentic to the two buildings, that the stucco goes all the way through. So in the interior, the stucco is on the interior walls of the two buildings. And let's see, this is 2022. We moved in 2019. The shells are still falling on the floor.
We didn't press hard enough.
We didn't press hard enough, yeah.
That's so great. Well, I wanted to include these two inspiration shots that I got for Jackye, because these were her shots, but you're going to see the similar feel when you see the actual house. But I just wanted to ask here, just curious, do both of you save inspiration shot? I mean, I'm just curious if you save them.
Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah. In fact, we would come together, and I kind of plop mine down on the conference table, and Stan would plop his, and I think, oh, well, that was mine.
You probably, some of them might be the same. Too.
A lot of times they were, and
Yeah.
then we, of course, we'd either be in Jackie's office or my office, and we'd be jumping up, looking at our books and our libraries and references to historic buildings. But these finishes that we were talking about really, and this story that we're talking about, really informed the interior finishes of the house as well as the exterior finishes. It wasn't about just decorating these surfaces. The textures, the materials were all about this story.
The story.
And that was really, to me, interesting and rewarding as an architect to have an interior designer that really understood that and got that. And it wasn't about just tearing something out of a magazine and say, I have to have this in this room or this in that room. It was, all these images were all about that story.
Do you, I have one more question on this, and then we're going to see the house. Do you always do that, or do you often do that, or the story? I mean, it's your house, but do you kind of?
Yeah, we like a story.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take it so far, and I think we probably took it really too far.
No, but it really makes a huge difference. I mean, you're going to see the references, and well, we're going to get to it. Okay, so here we go. What are we seeing taking shape here? It kind of describe.
So I think important, this is a bit technical, but because it's a barrier island, it's in a floodplain. So we had this idea of a stable, and stables were not raised out of the ground. They were level and flat to the ground, so carriages and horses could get in and out of them. So we had to come up with a way to raise the grade, to raise the land up to the level of what code required our flood elevation to be. So we basically built a wall around a certain section of the property and filled it with dirt to raise it up to that level. And it's also beautiful, it's very functional, it's easy to get in and out of, and it really, again, those kind of decisions were informed, back to our story in our narrative.
So just the practical side of that is there are no stairs, one stair. So I'm getting old, and so I don't like going up all these stairs. So
to enter the home.
To enter, so you go up one step and you're in the house.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
And the other thing is we live on a lagoon, and there are alligators out there. And so it's almost a moat that's been built because we had to raise the land, which is, I feel so safe now.
Right.
They can't get me.
Because they're there.
Or your dogs.
Or my dogs, yeah.
And this is, I included, this is the tabby going
Yes.
up, and you kind of answered that question. Would the craftsmen, I mean, in that area, does everyone know how to do that?
They do, but there's so many, just like a stone wall or a paint color, there's so many variations of it between the type of shells, the type of, the color of the stucco that you have to start with, and how many shells are in it. So it's artistic.
It is.
And so you have to have a craftsman, which is so important,
They
that
know.
understands
They
the
know
art
what
of
they're
it.
doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to interrupt one thing is that because Kiawah is very restricted on architecture and what you have to do and the colors you paint things, and so you have to go in front of a architectural review board. And so Stan will tell you about that. But we had a couple of colors on this house. They denied us first.
Wow.
So we had to adjust to it. But I actually am happier with what we adjusted to. But your roof, what your roof is, we went through a big process just to raise the land up. And I just found out today that they no longer do that. They won't let that happen. Yeah, we are lucky. And I do want to say this other thing. I'm maybe talking too much.
No.
But when the house was being done, all the architects on the even on the island loved this house because it was so different. All my neighbors on my street absolutely could not understand what in the world we were doing and thought it was awful. So,
Until they didn't have the vision.
yeah.
Well, being
Anyway.
just sort of that simple form
Right.
of a stable, and it has basically two gables that are these two parallel buildings. It's very simplistic in its overall form and shape. And so many houses today are very complex. They have wings and bays and things, all over them. And I think it was the simplicity of this idea that really appealed to the architects. And I think a lot of the neighbors didn't quite get the simplicity of it. It looked very modern when it was first going up.
Right.
And you're
And
gonna.
it doesn't now,
No,
but
it
at the
doesn't.
beginning it did.
So we're going to talk about windows and floors, roof, but just real quick, where is this area?
This is a courtyard. Again, this is kind of a reference back to Charleston, this idea of a Charleston courtyard, a very protected space. And it's as you enter the house, you look through that connector and it's a glass wall and you see this courtyard beyond, and Jackye found this incredible trough that's about 12 feet long. That was a horse trough that we put in this courtyard and it became a fountain.
That's where the horses went.
That's right.
Which you're going to see. And the horse references are just so wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good kind of construction image. I did want to talk about how did you decide on the roof? And there's the roof. It's copper?
It's a hand-crimped copper roof.
Okay.
We wanted it installed in the old way, and that is where a craftsman actually is up there crimping each seam. And it looks, it's not perfect like you see in a lot of commercial buildings. It's got character, as we say.
So, Stan, we knew that Stan wanted a metal roof, and so we went through a lot of options. And of course, this was the most expensive. And
Sorry, Bill.
and because the form of the house was so simple and the materials are so honest, and we were really going with the story, I asked, or I don't think I asked, I think, this is when I asked for forgiveness after we did it. But I said, we're doing the copper roof, and we're doing, the authentic one.
The real deal.
Because the roof is so important to the house. You really see it. And so anyway,
And the windows, I wanted to, so here's the before, and this is going in. Tell me about the windows.
So the story of the windows is these large Gothic-shaped openings or arches. Those were the openings for the carriages and horses to come in and out. And they repeat along the building, and they have the big shutters on the outside of them that operate and can open and close.
There you go. There's your shutter.
But we treated those windows as something modern that had been put in those openings. So those were steel windows made by a great company, and we actually had to use one particular company because they were so large. It was the only company that would make glass that big.
You don't have to tell you the company, but where is that company?
It's in New York.
Oh, in New York.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
well, it was the only company we
Riley
could
was the
find
name of the
that would make it big
Is it
enough.
upstate New York kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got
But
it.
see, we are on the coast, so you have to pass codes, so the hurricane
Yeah.
codes, and they were the only people that would make the windows. So that was expensive. Too.
Yes. And it does those windows do recall the Vandross plantation,
They
across
do.
the bottom. It does,
Yes.
to me, it felt like, I know it was the stable, but it still felt like that. In fact, I love the wooden picture of the first one.
Yeah.
Feels,
Like,
I like the way it looked then more than now.
Yeah.
Because I saw it.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other windows on the upper story of this carriage building, those were wood double-hung windows, being more historic, like they were maybe the old windows that had been there. So we used two different window packages to again kind of reinforce that idea.
Okay, this is just, I'm just curious. So here's a meeting, and it's going, things are going along. Like, if you were going to guess how many times you met, and not talk, but like actually met.
On site?
No, just, yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good one.
I would
like
say
how
we
many
probably
times?
were on site about 18 times. We went about once a month and walked through the house together. We'd find something creative or something wrong. You
Right.
never know what it might be.
And would you always come together?
Most of the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm just
But
curious.
then we probably met at least that many more times in Jackie's office or my office,
Right.
going over plans and ideas
I'm
and
just
inspiration.
Right. So I want to talk about the floors,
Okay.
material.
So these
Have at it.
floors, I will, because I see a representative here. These they're from Marmy Stone, and they custom cut to Stan's pattern I was going to say, they're called blue chinois, which
I didn't know you were going to say that.
I had to. So I tell people, I lie to people and tell them it's Belgian bluestone, but it is not. It is blue chinois, which means it's a stone from China. And they cut it in China and then had brought it over and installed it here.
And tumbled it. We
yeah.
tumbled the edges, and that pattern is what I call a random running bond pattern. They're all the same length but different widths, so that you don't get like what you think of like a brick pattern, and it feels a little bit more random and casual.
It does.
But the brick inside
Yeah.
the
Is that
fireplace.
old?
Oh, were you going to ask me that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
you read my mind.
that came from a man called Wyatt Childs, Bo Childs. A lot of you probably know him.
Oh, yeah.
And that is reclaimed antique brick.
Yeah.
I did ask. And then the floors, are those old, or are they made to look old?
Those are old.
They're old.
They're old.
From,
Actually, our builder,
builder, he found the
those.
like in South Carolina?
Yes,
Yeah,
they may
yeah.
have came out of an old barn or something.
So-
But what I think is interesting about this picture, it's not my feet. It's in that connector, again, we wanted authentic. So we have rafters. This is taken upstairs in that connector between the two houses. And we have rafters below, and we have these floorboards. There's no subfloor. You can actually see through the floors down to the space below.
Oh my God.
And we used antique square head surface nails to nail the floors down so that you would get that pattern of the nails like you would have had it.
So they, yeah, because this is when I said maybe we took it a little too far. I don't know.
No.
Of course, I love it, but you do hear everyone clomping, as they're going. So I can
Like a horse?
Well, yeah. Well, no, but I mean, I can say, "What are you doing up there?" Because I can hear them moving back and forth. But what I was going to say? Oh, see how it's run?
Yeah.
So we laid the floors. I didn't want them to lay them the way you do a standard floor, where everything's perfect and it all lines up and runs. So we ran them just sort of like they had a bunch of boards and they just threw them out and nailed them, and then the next run they just threw out some more and nailed them. So it looks like an old barn, like you would have been in an old barn.
I love the
here you can see the
materials here.
rafters on the ceiling,
Yeah.
and that's holding up those boards on the second floor
my
above.
gosh.
And here you also can see the tabby, because again, we're in this connector, and you see that tabby coming from the outside of the building through to the inside of the building like the original structure would have been.
Yeah, this is a great picture because it brings it kind of
Yeah.
in together. And
And
that's in
those
that
are the
middle
s-
section.
and those are the
where you
steel-
enter the house, right?
Yeah,
Is that
and
right?
those are the steel windows, and you look through those windows into the courtyard,
To the courtyard.
where the horses might be watering.
And I just want to show you these because you're going to see them again. I think it's so fun to see this in situ. So don't say where it is, but because I'm going to ask you that in a minute. But just take note. And then is this in the same place or is this in a different place?
That's in a different place.
Is that in the kitchen?
That's in
or-
the kitchen.
Okay.
The
And what's
pre-
that stone or whatever
That is
material?
the countertop. That is a black honed granite.
Okay, so that
And
is.
we did this edge detail where we stacked it and created two different shapes to give it some interest.
So I know y'all want to see the finished product, so we're going to get going. Here we go. In just a minute. So it's coming together, because it's like the piece de resistance. And I want you to see this. Which room is this, Jackye?
This is my office.
And because it's just, the transformation is just going to be incredible. Okay, so it's getting kind of close, and here's what we taught y'all to say. Where did you find?
Actually, that's so interesting because I've got it from Chateau Domaine. And I went, which is in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had, and that weighs probably more than a tractor trailer.
Wow.
I mean, it's so heavy. I think they had to helicopter it over the house into the courtyard.
No, like really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Or-
God.
Well, I don't know if they helicopter.
Well,
You think a crane? Okay, a crane.
Helicopters
He
are
knows
much
because
better
he paid the
story.
bill. It was that. Those cranes are so expensive.
I know.
Oh my gosh! But I love the reference to the horse. I mean, it's just.
Well, it had to be out there
Yeah.
because it connects the two stables. So
I love that. And then I love this because is that like a paddock door?
Yes, we call it Dutch door.
Dutch door.
See Mr. Ed.
Yeah. And now Jackye's work, as you can see, the house is coming. The shell is almost there. So Jackye's going to be getting into high gear here.
well, I have to say, I guess I'm saying one more thing before you get there.
No.
The house is so beautiful, totally empty. Everything about it I love. I mean, it's just like we're telling you all about the tabby and the stone and the wood walls, which I don't think we've really gone into, but I was scared, honestly. I was scared to put one piece of furniture in the house because I was afraid I was going to ruin it. I'm serious. It's
you
one of those
didn't.
things you have to admit.
It's incredible.
Because I was marrying two different households.
Right.
One was a beach house, and one was my Charleston Sirius place. And it was how is all that going to come together in a stable? And so I was very nervous. And anyway,
So you're going to see how
We
it
came.
comes together. Okay, and this is an inspiration shot.
oh,
Okay, and here we go. So now the finished house upon the entry, and I'm gonna show them this. And
I
then-
want to stop one
Yeah,
second.
you
This
go.
is kind of interesting.
You go.
Kiawah requires 2 covered parking spaces. So this was a trick an architect pulls. The stable doors that you see in the background that's the one-car garage that we had. The other one is considered the other covered parking space, although I don't think a car's ever been in there. But we always knew it would be a porch, but we called it a covered parking space. So there are ways around things.
So that is the covered?
Yeah.
Well, you can't tell me, but
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
That. So that's the covered, the code?
Yes.
Okay, then we're getting, this is kind of from the other way.
So here you see the dark part is the wood connector that goes between the two stable blocks. And that is the front door you see with an antique lantern that Jackye found.
I love that.
So the process of Jackye finding these beautiful things and bringing them to me with dimensions, and we would locate them and place them, and that was so exciting and kind of thrilling to see things like that come together.
And I love the continuation of the brick on the gable.
And that's an old Charleston style brick.
And I love this pass through, this axis. Is that important to you, this kind of?
Yeah, I mean, these Gothic arches have an alignment through the house at certain points, which you capture these kind of long distant views, which kept you by surprise, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's an overly formal axis, it's just more of an informal kind of aha moment when you discover it.
And the scale is so great. And is that the dining room that
It
you're
is.
looking at?
Yeah,
I recognize
it
the
is.
chandelier.
And when the lights are on, it's so pretty. When we were, the builder, when he knew we were coming, he was there, and he had turned all the lights on the house. And when I walked up the hill, seriously, I cried.
Aw,
It was
of course
so
you
pretty.
did.
It was so
course,
pretty
of
because you can see
course.
this axis all the way through, with all the lights all sparkly.
It's such a great shot.
Yeah,
I love
it really
that
is.
shot.
And this shot was taken,
Oops,
both
sorry.
of these when the house was relatively new. Now there's vines growing
Right.
all over that
You
arch.
had, I think there was another shot. Is this from the other way? How's
Yes.
this? Okay.
So this is when you're about to go in the front door. You
Door.
see the lantern on the
Yeah.
right. You look back through this.
Look at that scale. And with all the lush green, I mean, it's just,
It's a good-looking garage.
oh, yeah. And I did want to ask you real quick, and then we'll get in, but about the single shutter. Is that a thing?
Indicative of a stable, less
Okay.
formal,
Ah, got it.
easier to open and close.
Okay.
And here you see the more traditional wood double-hung windows on the
Yeah.
second story.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask about that. Okay, and then remember that inspiration shot. Doesn't it mimic that? It really, to me, it feels like it. So there's, and where's that gate?
That's in that courtyard. That trough
Going
is
to the
immediately to
lagoon,
the
or?
left, going towards the lagoon.
Okay, to the alligator?
So this, so those steps take you around to the back of the house, and we have what I call the lawn, and there's a lawn, I think you have a picture of it. And
Oh, I do.
that overlooks the lagoon. So you can go from the courtyard all the way around, or go through the Dutch door and go out.
I love that. Okay, we're going to start with this. And then the entry, tell us a little bit about this piece.
Well, I mean, no
everything
barn
okay?
would have had an electric doorbell. So, I found that one in England, and it actually, there's a pull on the outside. So when you come to the front door, there's a pull, and it has the wire, and the wire, you see it
You can see the
totally?
wire in the
Yeah, we
top
got the
of this.
wire just slinging across the wall and then to the bell. So that's how
Our
that
builder
is
thought we were absolutely crazy.
crazy.
I
yeah.
love it. It's the first thing I saw. And here is
So this is the entry.
Entry.
As to what I'm looking at to the right is the entry above the tortoise shell that you see hanging. And you walk into that glass wall and look into the courtyard. And I don't think, Jackye, you messed it up.
okay, you have to tell me, I want to talk about some other things, but what is behind that little curtain that you see? What is behind there?
Well, it is, I didn't think any southern house was appropriate unless you had a bar. And the bar was by the front door. So when your guests walk in, you can instantly give them libation. So, but I wanted to be, those are like horse blankets that I had made. So, and so it covers the bar, and you'll see it sometime.
Yeah, we're going to see. So this is looking into
That's what you see right when
courtyard.
you walk in with the fountain and the trough beyond.
So what a shot with that. Oh, it's just so beautiful. And I hear you collect globes. Is that right?
Well, my husband
Someone
does.
does.
Yeah, Bill Lanham does.
And then here we have the fabulous bar. Isn't that amazing?
So that's a collection. I've been collecting those for many years. They're horn stirrup cups. So they use them a lot in hunting, and they're all with silver mounts, probably, you know, like 19th century, you know.
But I love the fact that it's a collection and you are using it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean.
Well, I use them to look at them. I don't drink out of them.
Well, I thought you did. I don't know. I thought you would come in and say, okay. No, I was kidding. I would find the glasses probably down below.
But I think that's also important to go back to one of those
Sure.
reference pictures that you showed of Jackye that had the stone sink in one of your first
Yeah.
images.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
And
that's right.
this was
Sorry, I forgot.
a stone trough sink that Jackye found that we incorporated
There's
as
the sink.
as the bar sink. And there's another one in the powder room,
Yeah.
which is
Which we'll
fantastic.
see next.
And I
But-
do have to shout out, I don't know, but Waterworks provided all the fixtures in the house. And that is one of their fixtures on the bar. It's like, to me, perfect. You
It
know,
was
because it
great.
had
It's
it's so industrial looking, and
Yeah.
it looked right for it.
I just love that
Yeah.
bar. And here we have the living room. Tell us about the inspiration behind the palette. We kind of talked about that.
You know, I have so much stuff. So, it's almost like I have to apologize. We have so much because I love it all. There's just so many things that interest me. So, pattern and color is hard for me to incorporate in a living space. I like it to be more textural and plain, but I didn't want white. And
Right.
so this is a color that I call moonstone. It's kind of a gray, cool cream color, and I think it's a great background to blue and white porcelain, which I collect.
Yeah.
So that's but those are all just sort of different fabrics. Some of them are linen damask, a real heavy linen that somebody quoted me, it was you, said, I pretended like I was slip covering those sofas.
Yes, it was in the.
I did, yeah. I pretended because I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull that off time-wise. So anyway, I wanted everything to be comfortable and squishy and like very inviting and a little off, a little quirky, you know, so it didn't look so designed. But all that furniture, for the most part, is from 2 different homes. So I had to figure it all out.
And you did. And I love the art. I think the art really, the placement really makes the room, you know.
Well, we had,
Do you collect, I mean, what?
well, it's all Southern and Charleston artists. A lot of them were what they call the Charleston Renaissance period, so it was early, and that's Huddy, my dog. So we have about 4 Huddys hanging up there, along with some other artists, and then some contemporary art too, but all Southern and Low Country. And you know, so we just kind of, because they're all small, we put it together, and my real good friend Roddy helped me hang it. So I feel like once again it helps bring it down. It's not so serious,
Yes.
not so designed.
Yeah.
So
Well, I liked what you said. You said the pieces we've collected over the decades are like old friends you can never part with.
that's right.
Which I just love.
Thank you.
And here we have the dining room. Tell us about this collection.
Well, I mean, those are just like the horn cups. I've been collecting it for years. So there's really a combination of Chinese export and English transferware, but they all have that same, in Delft. So, but they all have that same influence, you know, pretty much the Chinese influence. So I felt like it was perfectly fine to just mix it all together. And the chandelier was I thought a killer chandelier
Yeah.
I bought from William Word. And I just walked in and said, oh my God. And you
Gotta
know,
have it.
raise the ceilings. We got to make that work. So
I love the fact that the table is rustic and the floors and the walls, it kind of brings everything down so it's not so formal. And,
Right.
You know, and you see outside.
well, we had started a story that I did not tell y'all, but it was basically it was a woman that had just all the, I'm not going to go into the total details of it, but
This was after the wine came out.
yeah,
of
the
our
wine.
meeting.
But she kind of inherited, you know, I mean, I know I got 2 chairs from my grandmother, and then my mother gave me 4 somethings from, you know, all these sets just got broken up. And so I decided that this story for this girl who had all this furniture was she got 2 of this and 1 of that and, you know, 4 of that. So all the chairs, of which Bill Lanham doesn't understand why I did it, but all the dining chairs are totally mismatched.
That's cool.
So they're all basically the same period, different woods, but the same period, and they're about the same height. But if you look at them, the different backs, the splats, you know, they're all different. And,
When you walk in that room, you don't notice. It's almost just a subtle thing you pick
Yeah.
up. And I will say also, you know, this is again the coordination and the collaboration between us, knowing that Jackye had this collection and we had to come up with a shelving system to some were hanging on walls, some were hanging or sitting on shelves, and we didn't want to design your typical kind of quick bookshelf or bookcase that would do this. So these are very rudimentary shelves that are built out of not 2x4s because we didn't want to look like that, but it's
Very,
really rustic.
like a Parsons. It's very
exactly.
And we
painted.
saw that picture of it, you know, in the construction phase. I thought,
Right.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah, exactly. And also, we had the story architecturally that the walls that divided these stables, the exterior walls were plastered, masonry, because it would have been a masonry building. The interior partition walls were wood, as they would have been, and we didn't build them with 2x4s with wood on both sides. We made them really thin, like historic partition walls would have
interesting.
been. So it would have been a board on one side and a board on the other side. And we got that clue from Jackie's house in downtown Charleston.
Yeah.
And what made it really interesting, we got ready to run our wires of where to put the light switches, and there's no room to do that. So we were like, well, this is our story. We have exposed conduit.
Can you see
That
it?
is
Go
what
into
I
a
was
junction
just
box
about to ask
into
you.
a light
Like,
switch, and
how often? I mean, that was fascinating to me. Do you do that often? Because I was like, this
No.
is unbelievable. Like the fact that you had the exposed
Never done
We-
it.
electric.
never
There's
done that
another
before.
picture of it too. I just
That
thought
was the
so
first.
great.
And also the beams up above are not centered in the rooms. We laid out the beams within the width of the building the way it structurally would have been, and they just sort of fall randomly in the house, and we just let that happen.
So tell them about those doors.
So these doors divide the living room and the dining room, and in this picture you see the kitchen beyond. It's an enfilade of openings that align. But these doors bifold, and they're about 3 feet each. So you can go from a completely closed wall, you can open the first pair and it's 6 feet, and you open the next pair and it's 12 feet.
Oh,
So you
wow.
can sort of use it as a fun way to divide the space. And Jackye had these beautiful kind of salamander pools made out of iron that are gorgeous.
I mean, it looks like a little alligator. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. No, it's a salamander.
I know, I love that. I was like, there's your gator. And looking into the kitchen. So that island has wheels on it, but it hasn't moved.
There's no way it can move. It weighs like 700
So,
pounds.
and also, do y'all often do that storage in that vault with
You know,
the?
I want to tell you, that actually happened on one of our job site visits. There was a
That
little
was
extra pocket of space there, and we decided we would use it.
So what's in there?
Oh, I keep, it's a pantry, so I keep all of
Like
our,
the
well, I keep canned goods in the top, and then rice and flour and grain and, you know, pasta in all the drawers.
oh my god.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it worked, yeah, because there was a closet, and the closet was so deep, there was no way you could even get your arm in there.
That's such a great
So
idea.
this was a change order. I'll let y'all, you just talk about the money, of which we had to pay more money, change order.
This is a great shot.
Again, architecturally, that was an arch that
So
would have gone all the way
beautiful.
down, and we just let the kitchen run
Yeah.
right in front of the window.
And sorry, I don't know if you said this. Are the walls in this part
They're plaster.
They're all
Right.
plaster.
So it's plaster. Some is
Painted wood, plaster.
board in other places. Tabby in other places.
Yes.
It's kind of. based
And
on-
really, that's the only palette of exterior materials.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And color-wise, it's very consistent through the whole
Exactly.
thing.
I love that shot. Love this too. The horse.
There's my horse.
and collections that you use.
Yeah, we do use all of
you use
that.
those.
All that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let me see what we got here.
How tall is the ceiling?
It's 10 feet on the first floor.
This kind of reminds me of that inspiration shot that you, in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh, yeah.
reminds me a little bit of it.
So
mood.
what's interesting, we had a really great cabinet maker in Charleston, and we wanted, once again, I didn't want it to look like kitchen cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did boards, and they are character grade oak that we had brushed so that it's scraped looking. And then
Scrapes the soft grain out,
Yeah.
leaves the hard grain, which gives it a texture,
and
then painted it.
and then painted it. And then we found a hardware company in Pennsylvania.
Heritage.
Yeah, Heritage, and they handmade all of the iron
wow.
hardware. So all the hinges, these pulls, all the door strap hinges that you'll see throughout were all made by this company.
Here's another. I like this because it's a little.
And that's
faster.
that Dutch door that Jackye was standing out
Right.
in the construction
I
photo
love
there.
this shot that you can see all the way through. Okay, and this is the
That's
powder that y'all were.
So that's
about that?
another
trough.
stone trough.
Trough.
We couldn't figure out how to make it drain. So we ended up draining it out the side, and you see that copper pipe coming, and we thought it would be fun just to
No
leave
way.
it exposed.
Wait,
And,
that's so cool.
and it's a part of the character.
And you
of it.
hadn't done that before.
No.
Absolutely not. Jackye took me to places I've never been.
Woohoo! Okay. And now, look at this office. Remember that picture? Oh my God, I just love. Do you work in this office?
I do. And have all my books, and not all my books, I mean, there are a lot of books there. And my computer is very cleverly hidden by that wall. You can't see it.
Love that room.
But it's just a combination of things that
So
we had.
you,
Yeah.
know?
But like the chairs, I bought those chairs from Deanne Levinson years ago, and we had them at the beach, and they were painted black. And when I brought them up here, they had to go moonstone. So, so they have a new life to them.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, so
Oh,
we're going to
dear.
go a little bit faster. But but you're going to see it all. Don't worry. Where's this?
Okay, so I'll talk real
Yeah,
fast. Okay, so this is a hallway that goes towards our bedroom. So this is above the living room. So our whole bed, and we do have an elevator. So so this runs the whole length of what is the living room and dining room and kitchen. So this is the connector in my bedroom. Okay.
And then there we go.
And there's our bedroom. And you'll see a little hint of, 4-post bed and a unbelievably fabulous chandelier from Roebuck that we got.
There's a lot of Roebuck.
There is a lot of Roebuck.
I could talk about it all day, but I know we don't have time.
So
But I saw a lot of Roebuck.
anyway, so that goes from there. There's another shot.
And you like that Anglo.
I love Anglo. I love
Anglo-Indian.
Anglo-Indian furniture. Actually, our bed is an Anglo-Indian bed
beautiful?
that I bought in London, and the trunk is from Roebuck. And those are. I feel like I'm giving y'all talking too much, but those are 18th century copper engravings, and it's a German artist, and they're all birds' nests, and they're absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
They're very graphic, and they
Yeah.
look modern, and
They
so
And framed.
and framed.
framed
Yeah,
well.
I had to have them. And then this is the elevator hall. It's above the first building, which is the covered porch in my office, and this is the hallway, and the elevator is in this wall.
And it's going to,
That's going to this bedroom.
which you call it
We call it the Florida room.
Yeah.
We call it the Florida room because it inherited all my gorgeous antique Florida maps. And so I thought, they have to have a room. So anyway, it's the Florida room.
which I love. And I did want to talk about this. So tell us about, is that a built-in, I just love.
That's the closet.
Oh my God. So it's built in.
It's built in. We projected it about 3 or 4 inches from the surface of the wall.
And do you often do this? I love
Sometimes
this.
we do, to make it look like a cupboard or a piece of
Yeah.
furniture, and then came up with a relatively kind of primitive, we call it carpenter chic. So it's sort of a fancy
It's
idea.
a reference, and
done.
I like that it wasn't like
Yeah.
specific,
Right.
but it was just kind of subtle. So does it have shelves or does it have a hanging?
It's, okay, so these
Sorry, I have
rooms
to
are, no, these rooms are, they're not huge. So this is where the closet fell because of the plans. But you're laying in bed. And I thought, I don't want my guests laying in bed and looking at a closet door.
Right.
And so.
So they can look at
So
themselves.
so I said, Stan, yeah, I know. You can shut the
Everyone
curtains.
Shut the curtains.
I don't think I want to see myself in there. Ooh.
So,
No, I'm just kidding.
so it's a closet. You can walk in the closet. It has half hanging, half
Oh my
shelves.
God. Well, I just love that. I thought that was so.
And the top part is open,
Oh, okay.
actually. That cutout.
Fretwork,
It's
kind of.
just a fretwork that you can.
And then here we. Okay, so we're going.
So, okay, quickly. This is actually my bathroom.
Believe.
So, and we have, all the floors upstairs are painted. They're
gonna
painted
ask,
wood floors.
painted.
And so in the bathrooms, I painted a checkerboard in my bathroom. And then the other guest ones, they have stripes.
So I see a slip cover.
There is a slipcover, yeah.
And the chandelier.
And the chandelier came from Charleston. It was in our living room. So
Isn't that perfect?
It was
came-
so fun to see your Charleston things come into this
in.
house
In-
in a different
in a
way.
total fresh way. I mean,
and I just thought I wanted my bathroom to be fancy.
Yeah.
So anyway.
and
So
this is the,
this is the other view. This is the other guest bedroom quickly. There are 2 double beds. And I put
Oh, right here.
I put curtains on all the beds because I love to leave the windows open and just shut the curtains and you
Is that
feel
me?
like a
could be me.
anyway, that's
I love it.
That's
And are
the-
they faced with different fabric or
they actually that fabric is a CC Milano fabric and it's the same pattern on both sides. So it's totally unlined. It just reverses. That's
and
another
we
shot.
ID'd this as the dining room,
I
but
know.
it is not. I was like, there's 2 beds in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is the what is the is it iron? What is
What are you asking me?
the plates? The,
Those are
transfer?
They're Bennington. They're old Bennington ware.
I love that.
They look like
vignette.
tortoise shells.
So beautiful. Okay.
And this
then
is Bill Lanham's, his gentleman's bathroom.
Right.
And that overlooks,
That looks spacious.
it is, it's very,
Okay. We're coming to, and we're getting close.
This is one of my favorite spaces in the
Please,
house.
please.
It's a passageway and hallway, but it's where the stairs come up, again in that connector, and we're sort of under the rafters, and we step up into the 2 stable buildings. We're looking into Bill's study in that photograph, and the laundry room and linen closets are tucked behind those doors on your left.
Is that a
You can see that exposed conduit and that outlet below that chair.
right? That's where you really see it. Do y'all see it? Oh, so cool. And is that a hitching post?
Yes,
That-
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
and that was out of a reference that you brought to us of a stable, and so we had that milled to look like that hitching post.
And we're going to see a few shots of Mr. Lanham's office. What was the inspiration behind this?
well, the inspiration is he loves to read, and we have so many books, and so it became, it's a nice space, and so it also absorbed a lot of furniture that we owned. But the interesting thing is, I feel like I keep going, but the fish was that fish lived in Florida, in our house in Florida.
Palm Beach.
But it was older than that because Bill's father caught that fish in
wow.
1950. 55.
That's amazing.
And we have in there, we have a picture of Bill in the
Aw.
Yucatan
Aw.
somewhere.
My father, right after he caught the fish, and then the fish is hanging in his office, and he's standing in front of it shaking hands with Ronald Reagan.
With Ronald
No
Reagan.
way.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, Bill's dad worked for General Electric, and Ronald Reagan used to be the spokesman for
No
GE
way.
Theater. So that was when he came.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so anyway, that fish has been around.
Well, I love it. To me, I love it. And to me, it feels like a sea captain's, like,
It does.
Yeah.
you know, layer, you
And
know,
all the
like a
paintings are
little.
ships,
What we
aren't
do,
they?
we
Yeah.
collect ships
And
paintings.
it's low.
So they're all, yeah.
I like how things are hung low, but it reminds me like of sea captains.
Well, my story that I have not told you is she was married to a very handsome ship's captain. And so that's,
Well, I love that.
Tell the part I am.
Yeah. And then we have the courtyard. And then I'm going to leave you with this quote, and I believe it was from Jackye. To be in a place that's new while surrounded by the things we've loved for years allows us to see them in a fresh way and gives us comfort and peace. And one more shot. And finally,
I know.
no low country house would be complete without its resident alligator. And here's Jackye's. So on behalf, tell
What?
Mom, can you see it? The alligator? Okay, it's kind of camouflage. So on behalf of MILIEU and Cowton and Tout, thank you for coming today, and see you later, alligator, in the Cowton and Tout showroom. Yay! Woo!
Y'all, that was awesome. I can't wait to come visit.
Me too.
Let's continue this conversation in Cowton and Tout Suite 225. Thank you all so much for being here.
Woo!